Hello friends, welcome to the channel Virtual Learners. We have completed Aristotle and Plato. Now we will discuss the political science optionals, the third class about Machiavelli. Machiavelli's book is Prince. It is regarded as the best book ever written on statecraft. So it's about running of the state or statecraft. According to Machiavelli, it is the management of power which is related to the running of the state. So that is an art, that is running of the state is an art and it is management of power. Machiavelli is known as the father of realism. Let's discuss some of the points related to Machiavelli. Machiavelli is the father of European concept of secularism. He was the first person to separate role of church and state. There should not be any interference of church in the state. That is the point which is put forward by Machiavelli. He was the first person to separate the role of church and the state. That is why he is regarded as the father of European concept of secularism. Now let's check out the background from which the Machiavelli has put forward all these ideas. Machiavelli belonged to Italy. He belonged to the time when nation states were emerging in Europe. Italy was the seat of Roman Church. There was huge interference of church in the politics. We have seen it earlier that Machiavelli is the father of European concept of secularism. At that point in Italy, there was huge interference of church in politics. The church was corrupt, so as the society. Italy lacked respect among the nations of Europe. Here Italy was vulnerable to external interferences. The first thing he wanted is to unify Italy. Machiavelli is also known as the greatest patriots among the scholars. Here what does he advocates? He advocates strict separation of ethics and religion from politics. What are the points which are very important is that there was an interference, huge interference of church in politics. Church was very corrupt and also the society was corrupt. Here Italy lacked self-respect among the nations of Europe. Also Italy was vulnerable to external interferences. This thought was there in Machiavelli and he wanted to unify Italy. That is why he is also known as the greatest patriots among the scholars. Thus, what he advocates? He advocates for strict separation of ethics and religion from politics. So he suggests that ethics and religion from politics is to be separated. Advice given by Machiavelli. He says that person who tries to find goodness in every profession is bound to be disappointed. He may find people in politics who are not so good. He says that a person who finds goodness in every profession is bound to be disappointed because he may find bad people or people that are not so good in politics. Machiavelli introduces the nature of field of politics in the book Prince. We can observe realistic view of politics here. Prince should look at things as they are than looking at the things as Prince wants them to be. It should be realistic view of politics that is suggested by Machiavelli. He warns Prince against living in his own imaginations. Prince needs to know how not to be good. His advice to Prince is, one who overlooks what is for what ought to be will be ultimately bringing destruction for himself and to his people. That is what is the advice given by Machiavelli. So one should look for what is, that is the current situation or reality rather than an ideal state or ideal scenario which is yet to come. Now let's move on to the advice by Machiavelli on human nature. Man is by nature selfish, fickle-minded, ungrateful, coward and avaricious, that is extremely greedy. Man can forget the loss of his father rather than the loss of patrimony or property. Here Machiavelli says that man can forget the loss of his father but he cannot tolerate the loss of his property. He comments that wise prince executes rather than confiscates. Here the wise prince will not confiscate the property of a person because it can lead to vengeance against the prince or the ruler. Prince must understand human psychology. Here prince can't take support of anyone for granted. It is better for the prince to be feared than to be loved because people love at their own will but fear at the will of prince. So people will be loving the prince at their own will but they will fear the prince at the will of the prince. Machiavelli says that wise prince does what he wills rather than what others want. Now let's move on. Two things that the prince can take advantage of according to Machiavelli is that first one, man is coward by nature. That means that man is fearful in nature. Prince can manipulate this element of fear in man and communicate that only Prince can provide security. So Prince can inculcate fear and then says that Prince is the only person who will provide security. The second one is man is extremely greedy. Thus Prince can maintain himself in power only by giving them freedom to earn property. He advises not to touch women and property of citizens because it can lead to vengeance against the ruler. It is better for the prince to execute a person rather than confiscating his property because man easily forgets the loss of his father but will not be able to forget the loss of his property. It can lead to vengeance against the ruler. So it will be difficult for the prince to rule. Machiavelli is known as the father of school of universal egoism. He points out the selfishness of human nature, which is a universal fact. He describes the psychology of emerging class, that is the bourgeoisie. Now let's analyze the statement. Prince has to be clever like a fox and brave like a lion. It is a statement by Machiavelli. Here, Prince has to be clever like a fox to understand the traps, conspiracies, and Prince should be brave like a lion. This concept is relevant for the present times also. Here, every state requires defense, that is depicted as lion, that is the braveness to protect or defend themselves, and intelligence, that is the fox, to protect itself from the enemies. Even though his ideas emerged out of Italy of his times, these cannot be called the narrowly dated and narrowly located. His criticism to Machiavelli is that his ideas are narrowly dated and narrowly located. But this statement suggests that it is relevant to the present times also. Now let's analyze another statement by Machiavelli. It is better for the prince to be feared than to be loved. Here the statement is regarding the management of power. Prince should look at politics as it is rather than the prince wants it to be. That is, prince should not be imaginative, he should be realistic. There are two types of power, love and fear. Here love signifies power of attraction, which is called as the soft power. Fear signifies power of coercion, which is called as the hard power. It should be the balance of usage of soft power and hard power. Soft power should be used gradually, that is, it should be used on people in a gradual way. Whereas hard power should be used as last resort and the magnitude should be so great that it should crush the enemy completely. So hard power is to be used as a last resort and it should not be applied gradually. It should be applied at once and it should be so immense that it should crush the enemy completely. Now let's move on to the criticism on Machiavelli's ideas. Here Sabine is one of the prominent critic of Machiavelli. He says that Machiavellian ideas are product of his times. That is, he is influenced by the Italy of his times, the conditions that prevailed in Italy. He says that his ideas do not have relevance beyond time and space and suggests that his ideas were relevant only for Italy of his times. It is true that Machiavelli's ideas were influenced by events in Italy at that time, but his ideas are not relevant just for Italy. Take an example of Kautilya. Kautilya, who belonged to a different time and space, expressed similar views on human nature and politics. That suggests that it is not relevant for Italy of his times, it is relevant for other countries as well. Machiavelli was influenced to many political thinkers. That is all regarding the criticism to Machiavellian ideas. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos.